What's going on, everybody? This is Jose Betancourt, and as always, thank you for viewing my video. So here I have the Fuji GFX 50R, and I have a small rig wooden hand grip with it. Now, the reason why I'm talking about the Fuji GFX 50R is because Fuji just announced the Mach 2 version of the 50S. The 50S was the first iteration of Fuji's medium format camera, and at the time, it was nearly $10,000. This time around, the Fuji 50S Mach 2 is going to launch at $4,000, which is amazing because it has the same 51 megapixel sensor, and this time around is going to have image stabilization. So think of the 100S, or even think of the Fuji XH1, and put a 51 megapixel sensor inside there, and you have yourself the 50S Mach 2. Now, the reason why I'm showing off my 50R, it has the same sensor. It doesn't have the same processor. It's using an older processor. So, unfortunately, autofocus speeds aren't going to be the same. But what will be the same is the image quality. Now, if you were to purchase the 50R body by itself, you're looking at about $4,500. With the 50S Mach 2 and the kit lens, which, it pops out, so it might be the same size as this 45 millimeter when all is said and done. You're going to get, 35 to 70, right? So you got some nice flexibility. That's going to retail for $4,500. And then there's a rumor that the 50R is going to be discontinued, if not already discontinued. So I'm at one of those crossroads where I'm thinking, maybe I should upgrade. Maybe I shouldn't. I most likely won't. What I might do, and I'm really pushing towards it, is selling my 45 and purchasing the kit lens, which will retail for $1,000 by itself. And the reason why I might do that is because even though it's about a 4.5 to 5.6 as far as the aperture, whereas this 45 is 2.8, so I have more stops of light. But the thing is, I get more flexibility. I have 35 to 70, and I have the legendary 110 millimeter f2. So it all boils down to what I want to do with my photography, and that is I plan to do more portraits and landscapes. And I have done landscapes with the 110. So yeah, my main goal is to do more portraits and do landscapes. So with this 45, I get about a 35 millimeter point of view, and it has produced some beautiful photos. Like, the one thing I love about these two lenses is that it has that separation from the background, and it looks like there's some type of 3D pop. So I like that in my lenses. And based on what I've seen from people using the 35 to 70, it has adequate separation, and it's a medium format lens. So it's not just a standard run-of-the-mill kit lens. It's still $1,000, so it's not a piece of junk that we're talking about here. The big question is, do I get rid of my 50R and 45 millimeter and then pay, the rest out of pocket to pick up the 50R Mach 2, the 50S Mach 2 with the kit lens, or sell my 45 and use what I make out of it to purchase the kit lens on its own and keep my 50R. Well, for now, my plan is to keep the 50R because, as I stated, it's the same sensor. I'm losing out on image stabilization, but I've been all right without it so far. I've actually sold all of my Fuji X gear, so I am strictly a Fuji GFX user now. As long as I can attach this 110mm f2 to this camera body, I'm okay. Because any photographer will tell you invest in the lenses, not so much the camera body. Now, some might say that the sensor in the GFX 50S and 50R are old, but let's face it, excuse me. It still produces the most beautiful images I've ever personally taken. I am, favoring selling this 45, even though I absolutely enjoy using this 45mm f2.8. But if I can get the equivalent plus extra focus range at a similar size with a sacrifice in stops of light, because remember, it's 4.5 to 5.6 for the 35 to 70. So I'm going to lose out on that. And I won't have the image stabilization to compensate for lower shutter speeds. So I would have to use that specific lens in very well lit areas so that I can keep my shutter speed at a good rate. Because if I go to 70mm, I need to adjust my shutter speed as well. Whereas with my 45, I could leave my shutter speed as is if I have it at 2.8 and just have my ISO on auto. So there's some decisions to be made. I really want that flexibility. But then again, I really want to keep this 45. The 110, this is untouchable. If I had to keep one lens, it would be this 110mm. But at one point, I thought this 45mm would be all I needed as far as doing, documentary photography, and that includes street photography, family portraits or family gatherings, event photography, things like that. I use it for landscapes, and it does phenomenal. So it's not that much of a huge decision, but it is one that I'm contemplating because flexibility goes a long way. And once again, that 35 to 70 is no slouch. And at $1,000, it seems like a really good bargain based on what I've seen. And if you look at Damien Lovegrove, the photos that he took, and he's one individual that I read his stuff and I watch his videos and I trust when it comes to reviews, his photos look phenomenal with that lens. So that's what really changed my mind. And he uses the old 50S GFX. So that's what I'm basing it off of. I saw some proof of the performance of that lens, and therefore it seems like it would replace my 45 just well. So you guys let me know what you think. Are you going to pick up the Fuji 50S Mark II? Are you going to pick up the kit lens? Or are you just going to purchase both as a kit? Because remember, if you purchase both as a kit, you get the kit lens for $500 additional dollars instead of $1,000 by itself. So it's a really good bargain, and it seems like Fuji's going to phase out the 50R. But if you can get your hands on a 50R for about $3,500, I've seen some people selling them for $3,000. And you want to get into the GFX system, you know what? This camera has some character. As the viewfinder body, it's like the size of a brick, but there's some character to this 50R, and that's kind of why I don't want to get rid of it. And of course, the sensor is amazing. So you guys let me know. So as always, I am Jose Betancourt. I thank you for viewing my videos. Talk to you next time.